Good morning.
Good
Is
morning.
it?
Gosh, it's been a long time since I said good morning on a
What
Monday.
is happening?
Welcome and good morning on this. We've come back to Monday mornings after I don't know how many years of not being on Monday mornings. Welcome to Live on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Scott Moon and Chuck Manley. We're doing a Motivation Monday today. There's nothing on the schedule. We're going to wing it and have fun talking about, check this out, reading, writing, and everything in between. And then, we'll talk to the live chat, see what they got going on this Monday morning. I assume that the viewership is going to be a little light this morning just because of the change in schedule and then also everybody at working. But we're gonna carry on and have fun.
See how it goes.
Welcome everybody in the live chat. Let's see who is the first. Jay Clifton Slater. He gets the Keystroke Medium Golf Lab of approval for the first comment.
I think we should change it to the Golf Smack of approval.
Oh, okay, I'm down with that. Yep. Yeah. Except that we'll like stack like we have to keep track of them. Smack. So when we see Jay in Vegas, like you could, it's kind of like birthday smacks, but it's Keystroke Medium first smack. We just go up and start. He gets 15 smacks.
I may not have thought that through when I came up with that idea, like many of my ideas. Yeah. Which also reminds me, we're going to have to change our message group for this show to the Keystroke Media Morning Crew. Because right now it says Night Crew, Monday Night Crew, and that's going to cause a bit of confusion.
I put an alarm on my phone to go off like an hour and a half before we're supposed to do this, so I'll remember to bathe.
Yeah. Well, you know what's great about it is coffee. Like,
coffee does make it better. Drinking
coffee and talking about writing kind of like goes hand in hand, and it actually goes way back to the inception of Keystroke Medium is talking about writing and coffee.
You guys came up with the idea over coffee at one of your local coffee shops.
Yeah, it was our coffee writers group.
It was it was our yes, Rick. It is probably going to be permanent. That's what we're leaning towards going forward, just because it works out better for everybody involved, but we'll see. But yeah, we were meeting in our writers group, which my wife always I tell Jamie when I go out, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go meet Scott for our writers meeting, or I'm going out for my writers meeting. She's like, you mean you're gonna go have coffee with Scott? And
yes,
and I would say, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound as cool. But
like we're not just screwing off, not doing anything.
Yeah.
But now, how many books later, and you get to kind of go, I was just going to have coffee.
Ooh, yeah, exactly.
Going to have some.
Every time I walk around the house, I just have a microphone I randomly drop. Like, I was right.
Pop.
But
should make like that.
Talking about coffee, that kind of brings us full circle coming back to Monday mornings, because we would spend a lot of Monday mornings. I don't know how many Monday mornings we did in season 1 where like it was just like crap. Like we would start the show and like stuff would go wrong. If you go to our YouTube page and subscribe if you are not subscribed, but the first video you should see there is a compilation of intro videos, or just a compilation of different videos from I think 4 seasons that Kayleen did. She did a phenomenal job on this video. But if you watch at the beginning, you will see like our first intros on Monday mornings, and
says they are
hilarious. Corvo says, will this stream get uploaded as a podcast? Yes, it will. And actually Kayleen and I are gonna start splitting the uploads, and so I will be uploading the live ones after the show, and she's going to do Thursdays. We're kind of behind on the audio stream, and we apologize for that, but we've had stuff going on, so we'll make it work. And yes, they will all be on the audio stream later. There are 4 shows. That's right. That's right. There are 4 shows. Yes. Because Walt has Concepts and Coffee, or Coffee and Concepts on Tuesdays, The Writer's Journey on Thursdays, and then Kayleen has Story Time, and we have Live, and Josh Gayu has a show. So there's a crap ton of contents.
There's a bunch.
So let's talk. Let's keep with the motif of Monday show. And talk about what we've been doing the previous
Monday
week.
motivation.
Monday motivation, and I was telling the guys before the show started. I have like very recently, like in the last couple of days.
This is the weirdest thing anybody's ever heard. I'm just going to throw this out there.
Weirdest thing.
I did not see this coming.
I have developed an appreciation for.
Wait for it.
Oh my God.
Instrumental jazz. And as soon as I said that to the pre-show, Chuck laughed at me. He laughed at me.
I did.
So a lot of us, when we write, we listen to music. I happen to like listening to music without lyrics. So typically I'll listen to like movie scores, or even I found a couple channels that do like trailer music, like if you watch the trailer to Avengers, it's got like a really cool Silence says we've lost all respect for Josh.
And then Josh was kicked off the island.
Like you had any in the first place. Come on.
Just start with.
Yeah. So
I just listen to the instrumental tracks on all the Metallica albums because there's always one.
Yeah. See, even Corvo gets it. Trailer music is life.
Yeah.
Like
it is.
It's pretty cool. There's a lot of different tracks out there that are really good.
Music all through your house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so I found a channel on Spotify that is all instrumental jazz, and it's literally like hundreds of hours long. And like my wife came in this morning, I was doing some writing, and the jazz was pumping through the speakers, and she's like, "Are you listening to jazz again?" And I'm like, "Don't talk to me like that. Don't come at me like that in the morning."
I don't even know who you are anymore. Hey, we should do a poll on who can write with musics with and without lyrics, because so far it seems like most people, I mean, I don't like listening to lyrics, but I know Stephen King listens to AC/DC and blah blah blah. But I don't normally like that.
No, I did the soundtrack thing and the instrumental thing for a long time, but these days, honestly, my best writing noise is white noise. I mean, it's something to drown out the rest of the world, so I can kind of really get into my own head. And
I can just let the ringing in my ears do that most of the time if I'm not listening to music.
Yes, I agree. Well, so I actually did listen to white noise for a while there, but not during writing. I listened to it to get rid of my ringing. But I listen to music like depending on what kind of scene I'm writing. Like if I'm writing an action scene, then I have playlists set up so that I can, like, it sounds stupid, but feel it, like get intense while I'm writing. And then I've got like for instance in Valor, if I'm writing one of Fisher's scenes, then I'll play Mission Impossible Fallout, the soundtrack from Mission Impossible Fallout, because it's got like the way the music seems to me is it's very like mysterious and thriller type and kind of fits the mood for that. And then when I write Fisher scenes, I'll listen to like Titanfall music, or like sometimes I've got some bits in there from Mad Max Fury Road, and yes, Music of Valor, Emotions of Valor. Look at Kayleen, Emotions of Valor. That's right.
Yeah, there's nothing stupid about that, because dude, I'm telling you, and this is something I've said before, and I'm going to say it again. The whole point of art is to make the person receiving the art feel what the artist is feeling while they're creating the art. So, I mean, I don't care if you're an actor or a singer or a painter. I don't give a shit what kind of creating that you're doing. Access to emotion is a huge part of that. So if a certain kind of music helps you get in the right emotional mindset to write the scene you're trying to write so that you can get it across more clearly, there's absolutely nothing stupid about that.
Mm-hmm. Silent Wolf says, go check out this group, 2 Steps from Hell. They work on trailers and music. I actually have several of their albums saved on Spotify right now. Let's see. I have, I'm on my Mac. Where's my PC? They do... and actually, a lot of their music has been taken and used as trailer music. Like, for instance, there's the in-game trailer has music from that soundtrack. Let me see. It's called Luminous and Unstoppable. That's actually from Captain Marvel. But then Now I can't find it. I'm just gonna lose. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I've got a whole big soundtrack list that I listen to.
Yeah, I have got genre specific lists on Spotify. So like if I'm writing urban fantasy, I've got a playlist that's got like soundtrack from like Supernatural and Doctor Strange, those things, genre specific soundtracks. And I've got one for science fiction, and I got a superhero one from all the Marvel stuff. I even have a separate one for the Netflix Marvel shows.
Oh yeah.
And speaking of instrumental jazz, check out the Jessica Jones soundtrack. That's really good.
Really?
But and I use those for more like low key kind of scenes. If I'm going to listen to music, like I said, lately it's been the white noise thing for me. But yeah, man, that's whatever trick you gotta.
Hans Zimmer is reliable for sure.
Oh yeah,
Chorlo says.
Yeah.
Silent Wolf says he can listen to music with lyrics in it. That was up there earlier.
I put up a poll in the Facebook group if you want to go vote.
Cool. I wrote for a while. I almost only listened to Pacific Rim for like a year and a half. That's like the only writing music I listened to. I listened to the exact same, and it's a good one. But to the point where when the sequel came out, I'd hear the soundtrack in the movie theater. I was like, oh God, I'm having a flashback to one of the 18 novels I wrote to that soundtrack. And I listen to a lot of Brain FM too, but I have a whole stack of Hans Zimmer soundtracks. Also, Call of Duty 2 soundtrack. You can buy that too there. That's another really good one.
Yeah, video game soundtracks are really good,
When I was writing my second Star series back in 15, 16-ish, I played Tron Legacy, the soundtrack to Tron, on like repeat, and I could not write in that story, in that area. I could not write without having Tron playing. I would try to write to other music, and I would like hear the song come on. I'm like, that's not Tron. I can't write to this crap. And I'd like go back and turn it.
What is wrong with that?
I wrote a post-apocalyptic short story called Once Upon a Time in Purgatory. And I did the exact same thing with the Fallout 4 soundtrack. I just listened to it on a loop while I was writing that story, and it kept me in that world.
If either of you are interested, I'm going to soon be recording my own soundtrack called A Small Barking Annoying Dog, and you can play that while you write.
Waiting for mine to go off because he's not small.
Our dog is like a perfect dog. It doesn't, mostly because it doesn't shed, but it's a barker and has the eyes of an eagle. So it'll look out our back window and see somebody like 3 miles away and be barking at this human that's like literally, even if they had a rifle, they couldn't hurt us.
I'm upstairs in my wife's office with her right now, sitting by the front window, looking out over the street. And the moment someone comes walking down the sidewalk,
oh, yeah, it's on.
It's on, dude. You're going to hear this enormous hound dog. It's going to go ape shit.
What's funny about my dog is my dog doesn't bark at all unless you get her amped up. Like if you start playing with her and like charging at her and play with her, then she'll kind of build up and she'll be like, and then she'll go. But she's like Scott's dog. She's like 5 pounds soaking wet, if that. And so her bark is not very loud at all. And when she barks, her entire body like leaves the floor and then jumps back down. It's kind of ridiculous.
A lot of force involved.
Let's talk about.
So how is that motivating?
I
guess we need to talk about what we did. We're 15 minutes in. We haven't even covered what we did this week. That's crazy.
This is the show that
sunlight. It's all right.
Yeah. Well, the coffee kind of changes things.
Coffee got me all sped up.
What have you been up to this week, buddy?
Yeah, I was wondering the exact same thing.
It's funny that you asked that because I was going to talk about that. I finished what amounts to the dev edit on Valor 3. It is done. Right now I'm working on the resolution chapters for the story. And I have, I'm about 3/4 of the way done with the first resolution chapter. Then I've got 2 more after that, and I've got notes for them already on my legal pad. So the words are flowing. And then I had a really interesting conversation with another author, and when I mentioned that I was almost done with Valor, he asked if I was doing anything, and I don't have pterodactyl about Valor. Yes, exactly. Hey,
that will make more sense if you were watching the live chat.
Yeah. If you're not watching the live chat, then you're not getting all the inside jokes.
I just randomly just kind of jumped in there.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. For everybody that's not watching live, you're not going to get any context to some of the stuff that we say. We're just going to say stuff, and they're like, "What does that have to do with what he was talking about?" So yeah. Anyway, this author reached out to me, and we were. He said, "I've got this idea for a story. I've already written about 40,000 words on it. I want to get your opinion because he believes for some reason that I'm good with story." And so I printed it out, and are there 2 sets of chat happening? Yes. There's a chat that happened. Oh, that's not the wrong. See,
well, there's one on Facebook, one on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So there, yes, okay. There is one on Facebook and one on YouTube, and the chat for those happen separately, but I can see them at the same time.
Right. Got them all.
So yes, there is actual more stuff happening on YouTube. See, you can see little Facebook on yours, and then like on Kayleen's, it's YouTube. So it comes in at different places. So yeah, just gotta have the conversation with where you're at. But anyway,
isn't that going to be confusing? No, barely an inconvenience.
Barely an inconvenience. Yeah. So anyway, I read the guy's story, and it was interesting. I liked the setting and the like everything that he had going on with it. But there were a lot of story issues. It was a first draft. But anyway, I liked it, and we had a follow-up conversation after I read about halfway. And like I said, I printed it out, which usually I don't do, but it actually helped because I was able to write a whole crap ton of notes as I was reading it. And we had about an hour-long phone call. We talked about the different story things, and basically what's going to happen is I'm going to sit down and story beat and plot it out and make sure everything works, and then he's gonna write most of it. I'll probably write some stuff with it, but I'm gonna take a couple weeks, and I got these brand new, still in the plastic
covered pads of Valor,
legal pads of Valor. And the cool thing, and I didn't realize this until I got about halfway through plotting a book that actually didn't get published, but that's a different story. Where I was jumping around in the plot so much that when I was going to actually transfer the beats to the computer, I was having to like flip through the notebook. It happens on regular notebooks too. These are 3 hole punch legal pads. So after I'm done and it's finished, I can pull everything out and then organize it chronologically and put it in a notebook, and then I can just flip through it because I'm weird.
Nice.
I know, yeah. That is like the only thing I'm organized about. Like if you see the and what's cool is like for my camera, I look and see what is actually going to be displayed, and that is the stuff that I organize. Like over here is crap, and over like down here,
waiting for it to tip over.
Yeah,
it's chaos. The rest, of
like for example, if like all your dolls suddenly fell over and buried you.
They're action figures. They're collectibles, Scott.
Damn it, collectibles.
Oh, look at this. Unity 151. Yes, I finally made a live show. Welcome to the live show.
Welcome.
Get in there.
So yeah, that's what I had going on this week, man. Some fun stuff. I'm looking forward to sending Valor off to the editor today or tomorrow, and it'll be out on the 21st. So just under 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. And
collectibles of Valor,
action figure collectibles of Valor. That's right. Look at Kayleen. Right. Kayleen says this shit because she knows she can't get in trouble. Dolls of Valor.
Yeah, we need her too much.
Yeah,
she can say what she wants.
It's right. When you're essential.
when you're essential.
Way too valuable to get offended.
That's right.
Kayleen of Valor.
Kayleen of Valor. That's right. What about you, Scott? What have you been up to, man?
So I did a lot of writing. I started doing something different. I've a while back, I got a PC laptop to do dragon dictation on, and that works pretty good. And I had a app called Synergy, which allows me to drag things from computer to computer regardless of platform. So what I was doing in the morning, I would dictate into my PC, I would copy it, and then I would take it over to Scrivener on my Mac. I would drop it into the notepad in Scrivener, because that's basically a text document, and that strips out all the code. And then I take it and drop it into the main manuscript, and that worked really well. If you have a weird internet glitch, it doesn't always pull over, but it's all saved in Dropbox. So I'm getting a little bit into the weeds there. But so what I've been doing this week is I do all my planning and outlining and beating and revising in Scrivener on the Mac, because I can split the screens and I can put different types of note blocks and things, organizational things, but I export it into a Word file where I just have the beats and the chapter headings. And then I'm doing all the first draft stuff once it's outlined into a Word document, mostly through dictating. And it's been very, very fast. My word counts have been redonkulous so far this month. So that's exciting. Although I started revising some of it this morning, and some of the transcription. What was a psychopath writing this crap?
It's funny because I did that for a couple of the beginning chapters that I didn't when I went back to do the edit, I didn't realize that I hadn't fixed them yet. And so I'm looking at it going, why does this look funky? Like all the formatting is kind of screwed up and wonky, and I'm reading it and I see some words and I'm like, that's not what I meant to say at all.
And it sounds stupid, but I've really been enjoying it. It's been nice. It's been almost as powerful as listening to instrumental jazz as far as my. I almost got you. See, I just waited a half second longer.
I waited.
Coffee right through your nose.
It's funny because I just saw James S. Aaron about something about a sweet beret. It didn't, for some reason I missed it on that, but I look over on Facebook. I see time to chip in to get Josh a sweet beret. Check this out.
Got your security service.
That's right. I forgot.
Right, that's what they want.
Security forces.
There you go. That's how you do it. Now talk shit.
I've got one.
That's awesome. We were talking at work.
Shaved and formed, by the way. This is not a rookie beret. This is shaved and formed. This is not my original beret. My original beret looks way better. This one was the replacement that I had to get when my first one went tits up. I'm like looking at the screen. There you go.
There you go. Get it in line there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I finished that. I decided to go ahead and publish my own first solo book I published for a while called Invasion Day. So it's be coming out next month. Big things there. I'm very excited about that and the whole series. It's a little bit different because it's sci-fi, but it's alien invasion. So it's not so much on starships and alien planets. It's right here in your hometown. So digging that, really enjoying it. Having a good time. What about you, Chuck? What you got going?
James says he always thinks of smooth jazz when he sees an Air Force parade.
Oh my gosh.
I'm glad I wasn't Nathan asked for a close-up.
That's pretty good. What have I been up to? Nothing. I haven't done shit. No, I'm kidding. I finished Galactic Murder Clowns 3. Got that off the weird tail.
I need to read that.
I got that on my list too.
Honestly, it's just been bouncing around in my head forever. And when I got done with it, I'm like, I don't really have high hopes for it being accepted because I don't think it's weird enough. But I had a lot of fun writing it. It's just an entertaining little story, in my opinion. Got that done, so I'm back on Jack Dark Book 2, which makes my wife happy because she really enjoyed Jack Dark Book 1, and I've still got Brace Cordova on the side burner that I work on. I kind of bounce back and forth between those, and that one's, the more I go back to it, it's kind of a mess right now. I'm gonna have to take a good look at that, but and then I showed you guys my clipboards of other ideas and works in progress. I've got freaking Pikmin Files 2 and a couple of new ideas, and and I got this FBI trilogy in mind that I kind of want to write. It's more of a straight up mystery thriller kind of deal. And
speaking of mystery thrillers, we should talk about Memory Man on another show.
I'm going to tell you, you're 100% correct with all of your criticisms, and a lot of those criticisms are accurate throughout most of the books. But for me, the only reason I stuck with him, because I'm not gonna lie to you, Baldacci's writing great on my.
It's me. Yeah.
I want to be revolutionary.
Here, check this out. This is because I'm cool. Hold on.
There's a meme for you.
But
I'm
honestly,
so uncomfortable with headphones. I gotta take it off.
Stick with him is because he has a knack for starting out with these just like WTF kind of questions, and he comes up with these almost WTF resolutions, but they make sense.
Right.
The way he takes you through the plot and the story, it all wraps up, and it's actually kind of like, okay, I mean, that could happen. You know, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And they do get better because Amos's character, he's not nearly the asshole he is in book 1 by book 6, which I'm currently listening to.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's always obviously knows what he's doing.
Because it's worth the ride, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I'm hanging in there for that. And I may even go through a few more books into there. Whatnot, but
that's my favorite.
My hard time right now, and then we don't have to go on to it because I want to stay positive because it's Monday morning motivation, not Monday morning Scott's bitching about the book that he's listening to. Different show entirely. But it's just a lot of the stuff in the chapters in right now, the characters act so unrealistically that I just don't think anybody would act like that at all.
No human being talks the way
and there's a lot of this stuff where it's like he was not normally emotional. And then the next 8 scenes are him being emotional. You're talking about emotional things. I'm like, I can't feel emotion. I'm enraged. I'm like, that's actually an emotion. But anyway, so moving on.
One of those guys that's reached a level of success where I think he can just get away with shit like that.
You can write blah, 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 buy my book.
And people will buy it. And they're like, this is the best stuff ever.
Yeah. Anyway, so I hope there's no Baldacci fans that hate me now.
They do.
They do. That's okay.
I'm this whole Monday thing is great because every time we do a show in the evenings, I get amped up to write, and by the time we're done at night, I'm like, I'm either half lit or just tired. And I'm like, or both. And so now, like, I'm drinking coffee, getting amped up about talking about writing, and we can get pumped up, ready to like roll into a good writing day. And like I don't know if I mentioned this on the show last week or not, but I'm getting back into a good headspace for writing and doing the stuff that I need to do, and it's been great. Like, it's been probably the last week has been the most fun I've had since when I first went full time. And getting words down and having story flow and all that stuff. Love that.
Like Return of the Josh Eye.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's like I told Scott I started listening to audiobooks again, which I haven't done in a while because I was binge watching TV. And I think that actually, that plus kind of figuring out my own kind of headspace thing has pushed me back into the space where I need to be at, because you listen to audiobooks, and especially goes like I'm listening to Before They Were Hanged right now. It's the first law book.
Such a good book
by Joe Abercrombie, and it's such a good book, and it's such a good narrative, and even the dialogue is just so fantastic. Like, I'm like, I want to be on that level. That inspires me to do a whole lot.
Abercrombie may be my Brandon Sanderson as far as fantasy admiration, because I think a lot of it's just masterful.
It is, and I think for me it will really depend on how the trilogy ends, because I don't remember the end of the first book being as memorable as the end of, say, The Final Empire was. Like, when I finished The Final Empire, I was blown away, and I didn't want to start the second book because I didn't feel like it could be as good as the first one, and I didn't want to be let down. Of course, then I did, and we all know how that goes. Sanderson, take a shot. But with with Abercrombie, the ending of the first book didn't blow me away, even though it was good. And I continue reading because the characters are just so well done.
Well, one of the reasons when I realized how much I like Abercrombie's writing style, because I heard people talk about it, I'm like, hey, who's that? I don't care. And then I finally listened to that. When I realized I can't remember if it's in the first book or early in the second book, when they come to what's the main city name? I can't remember it. Where what's his name? Where the arrogant swordsmith or sword guy is from.
I honestly, I can't think of it at all. If you said it, I'd know it, but
God damn it, it's right in my head. But anyway, Nine Fingers gets there and they describe the city, and in most of the first book, there'd been very just normal description for fantasy books in the book.
Yeah.
But then when he came in as an outsider who I now cared about, and he was so alien to the environment, and then he would describe things that were weird to him. It was so powerful, and it was probably the best introduction of scenery and setting that I've ever read.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the focus in the first books, but it just came in, and for some reason that really hit a chord with me. And I was like, I can't even, for one, that I could wait the whole book before I really got into that. And then when that happened, it changed everything. It's like I'm literally there for all the rest of the books, So I thought I don't know. I might be just a weird personal nuance or whatever.
Well, it's interesting because when I first went full time last year, I kind of made I had like a set deal where I wanted to like physically read for like 20 minutes or something before I actually sat down to write to kind of
a lot of people.
I've been trying to do that. It never works for me.
And I got out of it. Like for some reason, I slipped out of everything that was helping me push like 90,000 words a month or whatever. I got out of the routine and the things that I had been doing. And now I'm starting
like reading physical books and listening to audiobooks.
Well, both. I mean, like I will, I started a book. I didn't even think it was really that good. It was, that I didn't finish. I don't even know where it is now. The Priory over the Orange Tree or something. And I actually recommended it to Scott in the first like 100 pages. But after that, I kind of lost interest a little bit. But I want to start doing that again. And whether it's physical or not, I don't know. Yeah, that book, The Priory of the Orange Tree. And it's beautiful book. And the prose is really good.
It smacked the crap out of somebody with that thing.
Kill a man with that book.
I need to finish it because it is unique in the way that they portray dragons and the magic system. It is unique. It just didn't. It's like one of those things where like this is another thing that I try to focus on too now that I pay attention to it, is that it jumped between characters so quick that it was really hard to pay attention to which character they were talking about and to be pulled into following that character, kind of like where in A Song of Ice and Fire, where you focus on a character for like 5,000 words in a chapter, and so you kind of really get in that headspace of the character, and it gives you a chance to get to know that character. Where in this book, I never felt that was the way. And James Aaron says, I think Abercrombie is a much more realistic writer than Sanderson. The first long trilogy is making a statement about fantasy and heroes in general. Yeah. I think so too. I think that's why I kind of am on equal footing in the way that I like their writing. And the only reason I put Sanderson ahead is because I haven't finished the first Law trilogy. And so like when I finish the first Law trilogy, if it blows me away, then I will think that they were identical. And
that's the thing, is that the ending is different than I expected.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious. I really wanted to see what you say about it. So if you could just hurry up and finish those up.
I'm trying right now.
Get on it.
Drop everything.
Come on, man.
I'm like, Silent Wolf. Is it always the wrong week to quit amphetamines? It's a great airplane reference.
Yeah. I'm fired up on coffee right now, which means I'm going to crash immediately when we're done, probably.
I feel it. I'm amped right now. I'm amped.
But
let's talk. What are the? Is anybody else reading any books that are like really exciting them to write? Like, if you're reading a book on your downtime or whatever, is there a book that you're reading that you get done with, whatever, 20, 30, 45 minutes of reading and you just want to go to the keyboard and write? Are you guys reading anything like that right now? Or anybody in the live chat too, for that matter? I'm curious.
That was the First Law trilogy. I just finished that. Then I've read several since then. Right now I'm listening to The Memory Man, which does not do that for me. But I feel like I'm kind of learning and seeing some things with it. I liked it in the beginning, but I'm ready for it to be done now.
Yeah. I went through I'm not really reading anything like that right now, but I went through a spell late last year where I read pretty much all of Stephen King's new stuff.
I'm getting ready to read one you recommended.
Trilogy, The Institute, The Outsider, all of those, and those fired me up because they kind of harkened back to when I was a kid and I read Salem's Lot and all that, and it sort of ignited my my love of the whole fantasy and stuff in the real world kind of thing.
King fires me up to write. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, as the whole time I'm listening to The Memory Man, I'm like, I need to listen to Mr. Mercedes next, because that's in front of that one.
Way better.
I started reading Mr. Mercedes.
Better.
Silent Wolf says he or she is reading Rick Paltrow. Rick Partlow. Contact Front series. That's what he's reading. They're reading right now. That's interesting. His covers for that book are ridiculously good. Rick, those.
They like dominated Space Marine there.
Yeah,
for a while. That's
killing
good.
it. I started reading The Memory Man, or not The Memory Man, the Mercedes Man, Mr. Mercedes, and I could tell automatically that it was a King book, just the way that they
Sure.
That when they're standing in line at the job fair, like right before everything happens, I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely a King book. He has such a unique way of narrative form, like as he's going through the character. Mr. Mercedes Man of Mr. Memory Mercedes Man of Valor.
Nice.
Right.
It's the quadruple M of V.
Yeah.
There you go.
James S. Aaron says he's reading the original Robert Howard Conan series.
I want to do that.
It blows me away that they're almost 100 years old and it's still on. I have actually never read any of the
Conan
books.
Those are good stuff.
I haven't. I read, the closest thing I read of that is that there's the Carl Edward Wagner, the Kane series. That's kind of some of the similar types of mojo, I think.
It's actually good to go back and read some of that original pulp stuff, like the Conan stories, John Carter, Mars, even the gore books, which are, if you're offended by
everything,
like if guys treating women like shit, then they'll offend the crap out of you. But just the way stories were told then versus the way stories are told now, you can kind of see the things were kind of a lot more direct and
do you think there's
misogynistic? I'll just say it, because of the era they were written in.
Yeah,
versus you look at how people right now, what readers expect now.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of something good for people to keep in mind, because it can help you. Like if you have a character in your story who's really old and maybe from an era like that, if you're familiar with the kind of things that form that character's opinions within the context of your setting, I think you can help that character flesh them out a lot more if you understand that they don't necessarily look at things the same way your main character might.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that older stuff can do that.
What's interesting is that you say that, and it's crazy because in this age of social justice warriors elite unite, it's funny that some authors can take and write characters that are racist, but the character is racist, not the author.
Right. Absolutely.
And because the character is racist, they have this parade of hate for a book that is. You guys remember last year when that Chinese author wrote? It was like a science fiction book, and she got canceled because people who really hadn't even read the book, but they'd read the synopsis, thought that she had no place talking about slavery because she was from China and she was like disrespecting slavery from here in America or something. Like, come on, like that stuff irritates me. But anyway, I get.
You should read the book before you condemn it.
That's right. Social Justice Warriors of Valor. That's true. Let's see. When you mentioned the pulp books, I immediately thought of the Aliens books that came out in the early 90s.
Star Wars books.
The only Star Wars books I've read are the Thrawn trilogy. I haven't read any of the expanded universe books. And I don't know.
Well, let's go back further than that, and you can actually read Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was, I think it was a short story or novella or something that Lucas wrote that was kind of the foundation of the whole Star Wars thing. Yeah. I remember when that came out.
Is it still available?
I don't know.
Splinter of the
You would have to query the god of Amazon to.
GTS is what my wife says. GTS. Google that shit.
I like that.
Yeah, the Aliens books that were based on the movies were like that's pretty much the only pulp I've ever read.
We were talking about some other pulpy stuff last about with the was it crime fiction?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the Mac Bolan
Elmore
stuff.
Leonard and then Mac Bolan, all that. And and there's so much of that that's just fun to read. Yeah, like the Doc Savage books, The Shadow. I mean, there's so much of that stuff out there. The Spider. I remember I read a ton of that stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So,
Splinter. Rick Bartlow says Splinter of a Mind's Eye was by Dean Allen Foster.
Was it Dean Allen Foster? Okay,
and he says it was supposed to be the sequel if the first Star Wars movie bombed.
Okay, maybe I had it wrong.
Let's see.
Making a book list as we sit here.
Mars says, on the other hand, I wins every time a young writer who thinks an epistolary novel, like writing one, like I think she's saying she winces every time a young writer wants to write an epistolary novel. I don't know that I've actually ever read one of those. Like, isn't World War Z basically like that? In the epistolary form? I don't know, because I've only seen the movie. I haven't read it. Am I still here? You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm thinking.
We're leaving you there.
Yeah. It hurts when I think.
So an epistolary novel is a novel written as a series of documents.
Right. And that is the original World War Z was that. It was a guy going back and interviewing people that had survived the zombie apocalypse, and they would tell stories about their experiences and so on and so forth. Yeah. And actually the movie got a lot of shit because it didn't mirror that perfectly.
Right. Yeah. Well, I heard that the movie wasn't close to the storyline of.
No, there was a couple of throwaway references to the stuff in the book. Yeah, I thought it was a good movie.
I think it was a good, fine action movie.
It was a fine action movie, but no, it didn't mirror the novel at all. They were just playing on the name to get name recognition.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the author of that book is probably plenty happy with that.
Sure.
Because I bet she did okay.
Silent Wolf says the X-Wing Squadron is pretty good.
Yeah, I got a couple of those that somebody gave me on my shelf right now. Maybe I'll crack those open tonight.
You know what I started listening to a while ago, and I need to finish it, is The Witcher. And I'm not even sure if it was the first one, but the books, because I watched the TV series, and the TV series was really good. Actually, it was probably one of the better. There you go. Yeah.
Well, I'm always I'll go to Barnes and Noble when it's open. Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And I always like to hang out, and then I really should buy something. So I'll buy this book that I won't have time to read because it's not an audiobook yet.
Right. That's I'm the same way, man.
It's interesting because the way that he writes is very unique. Like, and if you listen to him interview, like, he's a very unique guy. Like, he's I can't even pronounce his name. Yeah, that's the guy. I listened to an interview on YouTube about him the other day, and it was interesting the way he talked. Because English is not his first language, so obviously when he talks, you have to really pay attention to what he's saying to get it. But yeah, I think he said some things that like threw the interviewer off. He's like, "Oh, what?
Whoa, hey."
Oh man, I was thinking when we were talking, huh? Did I break up?
No,
I have a feeling like for some reason I feel like my internet's like jumping around a little bit.
No, you're smooth as silk over here, dude.
Smooth as silk.
Chuck and I next time we're gonna plan it out. We're gonna have
we'll be like, hey,
yeah,
but
Bill's gonna be memeing just random things, and I'm gonna just stand there like, guys, I'm talking.
Can't hear you. What?
Oh my gosh!
I tell you what, Kayleen says guilty pleasures.
Guilty purchases.
Yes, purchases. I'm really excited to write this crime thriller after I'm done with Valor. Like I'm super excited. I can't even tell you how excited I am. Just for the simple fact that I don't have to world build. Like the only thing I have to do is like come up with a fake town name and write it. And I'm super excited about that.
Like Manlyville is probably your town name.
Manlyville. Yeah. Manly town. I cannot like
I'm gonna call mine Hayesville.
Don't write it down. No, because there's actually a town here, like 20 minutes south of me.
One of our suburbs is Hayesville.
And even that they don't spell it right. They don't spell it with the E. They spell it Haysville. But Hayesville is like that's the town that you don't want to like. You're missing teeth if you're from Hayesville. Like
it's called Hayes-Tucky.
Hayes-Tucky. That's right. And you don't want to be from there. It's really frustrating with having the name Hayes. And I'm like, oh, you must be from Hayesville. No, not. But no, I'm really excited to write this crime thriller because I think that it'll be a good change of pace from writing science fiction. And after listening to Mr. Paradise last week, and then I finished the Late Show. I'm really excited to get that book done and then see what people think about it because it's they always say write what you know, which is kind of a weird thing because it doesn't really make sense in the science fiction fantasy realm, even in a romance realm. Like how many people have a romance with a werewolf? But I think that this is one of those books that I have really personal connection with just because of the way the story, the law enforcement aspect and investigating a case and stuff like that. And I'm really excited to see how that comes out and how people read it. Because
I don't care what you write. I think cross-genre reading is super important for any
for sure. Mm-hmm.
For any writer.
Yeah.
The only thing I can't bring myself to read is romance.
Yeah.
I
can't read it, but I'll watch one with the wife.
That's the closest I can get. I can watch Hallmark movies with my wife, and I just sit there and bite holes in my tongue and strain my eyes. I roll them so much.
The only time I'd ever considered reading a romance book is, and I still might do this, is to do like take a Nick Sparks book and like break it down just to pull out some of those. Because like if you put romance into your books, like a lot of people have problems figuring out how to do that correctly, like the slow burn and all that other stuff. And so I would read one of Nick Sparks' books just to follow the structure of how their feelings progress.
Well, you know what? That's funny you say that because you know how I mentioned earlier that Brace Cordova 3 is kind of a mess.
Yeah, it's
because I put a romance subplot in there that's going to be important by the time I finish up at book 5. And I feel like reading it, I have completely screwed the pooch on that one.
Why? So, but why though? What I mean,
the
do you think you're jumping in too fast, like a Disney movie?
All right. Yeah. It doesn't. Let's talk about Star Wars for a second. All right. Well, but listen to me, Han and Leia.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There's very much a kind of a slow kind of thing happening there over the course of the 3 movies. Right. They meet on the Death Star. They're at each other's throats. Then they have that scene in Empire where they're like you know, I'm a nice guy. And there's like that slow kind of kiss that gets interrupted.
Right.
Kind of a build to that. And then by the time they do the Ewok scene where he's thinking that her and Luke are hooking up, you know, and it really kind of comes to the forefront that he's crazy about her, yada, yada, yada. There's that very smooth yet subtle kind of incline up to that moment where they profess their feelings.
Makes sense.
And mine feels like, you know, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not a romantic guy. I don't know. But it feels really just something's wrong with it. And it's driving me nuts.
I think you have to like look at it like very purposeful in that not simply using it as a plot device, but looking at it from the perspective of, in my life, how did it work? Like, I
don't know.
How did you make the transition from like just flirting to what? Because it's very hard, because in real life you have like literally probably weeks and weeks and weeks of flirting before you get to a point where you're like dating. And William Tyler Davis says Nick Sparks is a genre unto his own. It's true.
It really is.
And William writes a lot of good cozy mystery stories too, but you try to condense. It's like I mentioned, a Disney movie. Like the Disney movie romances are so ridiculous because it's literally 5 minutes of I don't know if I want to. We're gonna get married, but it's really hard to take those weeks of flirting and then dating and everything else and condense them into manageable chunks in a book where the reader can say, yes, that makes sense. And yes, this happens, and to grow it from there. That's why I say I'll probably like pick one Nick Sparks book and just read it just for that aspect of it. But
what I like to do is find people that have done that and then done their own breakdowns and put them on the internet and read the breakdown. Rather than put myself through reading the novel.
I think
last week it was the Last week it was the breakdown of using Google to go from here.
I don't get why you're a few years younger than me. You kind of grew up with the internet more than I did, but I'm the one who's finding all the shortcuts because I'm fat and lazy.
What sorcery is this?
What sorcery?
That's actually a really good idea. And I don't know why I didn't think about that.
I have one.
I watch YouTube for everything, right? Like, so I started playing Minecraft. And so I've been watching YouTube videos to figure out how to play Minecraft. That's dumb. And we do a YouTube show to teach writers how to write or to talk about writing. Why did I think
in all honesty, if we wanted to challenge ourselves, and you're going to hate me for saying this on
the romance challenge.
Well, yeah, we pick a book, all three of us commit to it, we read it, and we do a show breaking it down about why it works.
I think we should, if we're going to break down a romance, we should break down.
That is about the only way I think I feel compelled to read a book like that. Sorry, Scott, I didn't mean that.
Oh, no, I'd say we should read Running from a Rock Star by Jamie Albright, because she's been on the show. And I actually read that book. And I listened.
Oh yeah, you're gonna pick one you've already read.
Yeah, no. Let's.
Yeah, no, but it's good. It's well done, and and she's an example, because we've talked about this before. She's an example of when rapid release was becoming a huge thing, and everybody was like, "You have to write a book and publish it every 18 days," and stuff like that. I mean, literally, there was no person I knew who was intentionally doing a slower thing. So she wrote that one book. She took forever. And then she basically made her career off that book. And then the sequel, she'd write one every few months. And she's doing very well because she knew her genre and she wrote a great book, did all the things, and doesn't have to write 18 books a year like the rest of us.
There's one more. There are multiple pathways to success. I mean,
well, I think it's interesting when you're looking at the live chat now that people talking about like their actual real life romance. Mayor says, I've read almost as many romance novels as science fiction, but blending them together is harder than either by itself. That's actually a really good point.
That's a very good point. Very good. Doesn't Broker have a science fiction romance?
Lindsay Broker? I'm not sure.
I think she does.
I'm not sure.
I mean, she's got so many books out of time, but I remember her talking about it on a podcast. where she
What's
did a
interesting
science fiction romance series.
What's interesting to me is the writing romance that's believable. You can't like so Scott and I talk about this all the time. Like 90% of the stuff that happens in like actual day-to-day cop work, if you put that in a story, no one would believe you. They would say there's absolutely no way that would happen in real life. And you're like, yes, it happens all like every day. This happens.
Sure.
Like Scott would call me and he says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Nah, I just got done chasing a chick running down Broadway with no pants on." Like for no other reason that she was running down Broadway with no pants on. And you're like, come on, that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah,
it happens.
It's the same way in hospitals, man. You know, everybody's programmed with these media-driven images of what it's like,
right?
But the reality is way different, and people are way more horrible than we give them credit for.
And so taking that real life and putting it into a book doesn't work. It doesn't work with we're watching House, my wife and I, and she gets really upset about the medical stuff not actually being realistic.
Right.
And I said, but it doesn't have anything to do with being realistic.
About realism.
It's about drama and intrigue and making it interesting.
It's
and
entertainment.
I wonder if that's the same. Looking at all of this, I wonder if it's the same when we're talking about romance too.
Oh, absolutely, man. I've had this conversation with my wife because every Christmas she gets that goddamn Hallmark Channel thing going. Yeah. And I tell her every year, you do not get to give me shit about science fiction and fantasy because that is as much fantasy as anything I've ever read or written.
That's true.
Because that doesn't happen in the real world. But that's the fantasy fulfillment that a lot of people want. You know, they want everybody's beautiful and the town is lovely and everything's happy in the end. And the crises they're not that earth-shattering,
right?
You know, it's all pretty and polite and you know that's not real. There's nowhere in the world like that.
Well, that's what most fiction is about. Not the word. It's about how you wish it was. You know,
right? It's fantasy,
right. And even on a lower level, it's like, you know, you wish that person that gave you shitty service.
Yes.
At the drive-thru that you could say something snarky to them that you thought of at the moment rather than 5 minutes later. And, you know, the same things about fantasy and sci-fi, very similar in those aspects.
It's all wish fulfillment.
It's all escapism.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I'm looking next week. We actually have a guest. I'm trying
to find
the link of his book. His name is Damon Swade. I'm being on Amazon. We're talking about dialogue next week.
I like that.
Amazon. This guy has written a nonfiction book. Sorry, I'm looking at one computer trying to write what I'm looking at on a different computer.
I thought you were organized.
Gosh. So it's Damon Swade, and it's his book is called Verbalize, Bringing Stories to Life and Life to Stories, live wire writer guides. I'm gonna link the the book in the live chat so you guys can check it out if you want to before next show. Apparently he's really, really good at the dialogue. And so we're going to have him on to talk about that because I think dialogue, for me, dialogue is one of the most important things in my writing. That's something that, like, I've read some books that there is dialogue, but some of the dialogue is like passive dialogue. Some of the dialogue is ham-fisted and kind of awkward. And a lot of books have like so much narrative, and then the dialogue is kind of cut down, minimal in the book. I'd actually prefer a book almost like a screenplay where it's dialogue all the way through, and I think that's one of the reasons.
Elmore Leonard.
Like Elmore Leonard, but I think that's why I really like Joe Abercrombie, is because so much of his story is dialogue, but there's also internal dialogue too that contradicts, like if you the Glockta chapters where he has internal dialogue that completely goes against what he's actually saying, and I love that kind of dynamic. So we're gonna have Damon on the show next week.
Dazelle is the name of the sword champion that I was trying to remember earlier.
Oh yes. So anyway, we're gonna have him on the show next week. We're gonna talk about some dialogue. It's gonna be good times. I really like Monday mornings rather than Monday nights, so we'll see how long it holds up. Everybody in the live chat, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Man, there was a lot of interaction, a lot of people on. Good thing on a Monday morning. So I hope everybody is geared up for a good writing week. If you're listening on the audio version, which by the time you listen to this on audio, it'll probably be like September. I'm just kidding. It'll be faster than that. If you're listening on
Kayleen, damn it.
That's right. If you're listening on the audio feed, come and hang out with us on YouTube. Now, Monday mornings, 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m.
Oh my God.
Central. I've been saying p.m. for so long, I can't even say a.m. It's in the morning. Come and hang out with us in the morning.
10 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
And that would be 8. Oh, my God. I just did it.
See?
Oh.
Carry the one.
It's not as easy.
10 in the morning, 11 in the morning, 8 in the morning.
Okay, so while we're on time, because I think we have time for this, Scott Bartlett I'm gonna go on his show or something. So he's trying to explain the time to me. He says, so what is the time? And he figured it from Eastern time to Central time. I'm like, okay, I'm with you. And I said, well, that's such Eastern time. And he goes, I'm on Newfoundland time.
Which is way off.
1.5% further than Eastern time, but before Atlantic. I don't even know.
Wow.
It's
well, before we end the show, I got to give a shout out to my son Sean, who is now watching. He just texted me and said, "I'm watching the show." Hi, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, Sean.
He's gonna
go back to the beret part.
He's gonna get a kick out of that. So everybody that come and hang out with us today, thank you guys so much for coming in and hanging out with us. Share the show around if you got anything from it, or if you just had fun watching us kind of screw around on a Monday morning. There he is. Hey, look. Hey, hi.
Sean Hayes of Valor, right?
That's right. Sean Hayes of Valor. That's right. Thank you guys. Make sure you come back next week. We're going to talk about some reading, some writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. Peace.
Later, guys.